Welcome to Kaizen Time, part of the Blood, Sweat, and Business podcast, where we provide constant improvement to businesses through timely, actionable financial solutions. Do you want answers to your financial questions? Email us at bsp@kaizencpas.com. I'm your host, Mark Valesky. Now let's get started. Welcome to another episode of Kaizen Time. I'm joined by Eric Jordan, a partner here at the firm. Eric, how is your son doing?
He's doing really good. He's growing, learning, and oh man, he wants to kick me out of the way and slap the keys on the keyboard and get involved in whatever I'm doing.
What I'm hearing is he's going to be a proper bean counter.
No, I don't know about that. He'd have to find a good one to aspire after. I don't know. He's going to learn anything good from me.
Well, let's get into it. How if you have a child in your business,
Yep.
you know, they want to learn the craft, they want to do this, they want to train up. So how do you kind of start that? I mean, they got to get paid, they got to get trained. Run me through the process.
Yeah. Well, so one of the, so I'll step it back here.
Sure.
So in a tax structure, you're going to have your business as one entity, and this is just what we normally have.
Any business, S Corp, C Corp, LLC,
S Corp, C Corp, LLC, sole proprietor, partnership. There's all sorts of these different entities, right? And then you have myself, my tax self. So Eric Jordan is my individual tax filer, and then my son is his own tax filer, and he gets something called a standard deduction.
Now, let me stop you right now. Is this still when he's underage?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So, gets a standard deduction around $15,000, which means I don't pay federal income tax on the first $15,000 I get paid.
Sounds great.
Sounds fantastic.
What about state?
All states vary. So, depending on the state you're in, I don't believe there's a state that is as friendly as that.
Okay. But the federal is very friendly right now.
Very friendly. Well, and hey, if I pay zero, if the only tax I owe, say, is on Illinois and $15,000 at 5%, if I can get that out of my business, that's a pretty good win.
Okay.
So the how is the hard part here, right? So let's step back and say, okay, how do I have my child employed by my business? Well, you want them to be an employee, right? You might hear, just 1099 them as a subcontract. Well, 1099s don't necessarily, that's a subcontractor. And if they're under your control,
that's not what a subcontractor is.
It's not a subcontractor, but there's a certain excerpt that says a sole proprietor or a partnership in which both partners are your parents and I am under 18 years old, I'm not subject to FICA taxes. So, which means I can get a W-2 and be an employed individual by my parents' business, assuming they meet one of those two structure types.
I want to pause a second. Both parents have to be involved? Or just one?
It can be, so if it's a sole proprietor, which would be just one parent, or if I have a partnership in which mom and dad or both my parents are the two partners involved, they can then employ me. Okay. I get a W-2. Mm-hmm. I get my only income in box one. I'm not subject to 3 or 5 for FICA taxes. That's IRS publication 15 circular E, because this is just a little weird wrinkle. Mm-hmm. And that reads, payments for the services of a child under 18 who works for his or her parent in a trade or business aren't subject to Social Security and Medicare taxes if the trade or business is a sole proprietorship or a partnership in which each partner is a parent of the child. So essentially what I just said.
So what I'm hearing is I don't want to say dodging because that would be inaccurate.
Yeah.
This is very much by the code. A child, your child working for you would only pay state tax.
Pretty much just state tax. And then let's put that money into a Roth IRA. So they're filling up a Roth IRA up to the limit every year. And say they do that from age 5 to 17, you get 12 years of
They can't legally start working at 5, Eric.
Sure they can.
Ooh. I thought you legally had to be 12 at a minimum, depending on the state.
All depends. every state's got its own sort of circumstances, rules, what they can even do for you or not do for you.
Okay.
Hiring a third party child might have different stipulations than hiring your own child. And here's the thing, right? Age appropriate work. That's very important.
The other key.
One. Yes. Yeah. So
if you're laying down cement, your 5-year-old isn't helping you, obviously. Okay.
Yes. Age appropriate work. Right. So what can you have them do? I don't know, pick up shred papers.
Well, and the other thing too, for them to get the work permit from school too. That's the other key.
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly. You're right. There are some obstacles, right, of having them legally work for you and working within a realm. And then you have to give them age appropriate work, right? There's a very limited scope of things you can do. You can give a 5-year-old, right? So if you got a 5-year-old making $15,000 a year, I don't know how you're doing that.
One of them, if not that I have done this, but I understand, like, hey, I own a company. The company produces collateral. I use my kids as models.
Sure. And if you can find that, a reasonable amount to pay them for their modeling that they've done in those brochures is $15,000, by all means, right? If that's reasonable, you can pay it, right? And that's age appropriate work.
But yeah, I mean, you make an excellent point. You take that $15K, $5K, whatever it is, at a young age, and just throw it in a Roth. That is going to be phenomenal.
Time value of money starts a very, very early on. Very important concept to teach your kids very early on. Of all of a sudden they're at 18 and they got a few $100,000 sitting in a compounded account. Mm-hmm. How many 18-year-olds start off with that? You might have just created yourself a trust fund baby.
I was about to say trust fund babies have that, but they also didn't have to work for it.
Yeah,
for the most part,
and in this case, they have to work for it, right?
They're learning the value of work. Yeah, I think that's great.
Yeah, and in the age of social media, right? A 10-year-old or a 12-year-old might know more about social media for your business than you do.
That's very possible.
So that's something to keep in mind, right? This has now become more accessible than it ever has been before.
And realistically, the only requirement is having a business.
Correct.
Yep.
So now I'm a C Corp or an S Corp, right? Most of our clients are going to be S corporations. Now, if my child is employed by that S Corp, that wage is subject to FICA tax. So that's 7.65% on the employee portion and 7.65% on the employer portion. So something to keep in mind. If I'm under an S Corp, that creates some complexity. Now there's ways around it, right? I can create a Schedule C sole proprietor, right? Open up an LLC. I'm the only member. That's a sole member LLC, disregarded entities, sole proprietor for tax purposes. And that's a management company, and I can pay my kids through that. And then they can now get the FICA exemption. Mm-hmm. Lots of complexity to save some money in tax, right? Crunch the numbers.
It may not be worth it.
Might not be worth it, but that's a way to make it happen, right? There's ways to make stuff happen. But yeah, that's a, age appropriate work and reasonable rate, right? You can't just write the check and say, oh, well, they did stuff. No. When did they work? What are the dates that they worked? And what services did they provide, right? Documentation.
That's actually the next series of questions I really wanted to get into, because this falls into the kind of the payroll category.
Yep.
Right. Ooh. And I'm sure Brian would give us all. I should just have a guest, right?
Shoot, we could have brought him on here too.
That's all right. But let's kind of get into that, because whenever I talk to Brian, it's like, when is it a good time to look into having payroll services?
Yeah.
And he says basically as soon as you have 2 employees.
Yep.
Like as soon as there's another person besides your sole self.
Yeah. Well, especially because if I'm a sole proprietor by myself, I actually don't pay myself on payroll. But once I have employee number 1, or I say as a sole proprietor, I'm going to be a sole S Corp owner.
Okay.
Time to start payroll.
So what are the steps? What's all involved?
Yeah. Well, in my opinion, right, you have to create the role. You have to have the need and create the role and start doing some research. Hey, we got a great tool now, ChatGPT. Mm-hmm. What's a reasonable, here are the things that I plan to have them do. And if you need ideas, What a great use for it. What are age appropriate duties for my 5-year-old inside of my business? And then you got to check with your state, right? Can I have my child work inside of my small business?
Yep.
And at what age? What are the proper clearances? Do they need a work permit from school? What are all those things that need to happen? Make sure you have those ducks in a row. Roles, responsibilities. When are they going to work for you? What hours are they going to work for you? Get the reasonable rates, right? What makes sense, right? Is one, photo shoot for a pamphlet worth $15,000? I don't know. I don't value that. I'm not in that world.
Wait till your son is on the cover of your whatever print material.
He was not voted the Gerber Baby of the Year, he might, if he got that, maybe we can make that happen. That $15,000 happen.
So I guess what I really want to know as we're as we really lock in this payroll stuff. So there's obviously got to be some type of documentation. Do we throw it in QuickBooks? Where's that all happening?
Yeah. So you should have an employee file.
Okay.
Right. So for everybody. So this is, again, why investing in a good payroll software makes a lot of sense, because good payroll software allows you to keep employee records. And inside those employee records, roles, responsibilities, right? They're going to clock in and out if they're paid hourly, which they probably should be paid hourly at that point in time. Any of the research around time, et cetera, or rules, whatever they need to be a bona fide employee, right? All goes into that employee file. So we have that. We have the time that they worked. We have the data on, hey, this was a reasonable rate to pay them for it. So when they get paid, that's in that employee file for them. When that data flows into QuickBooks, right, that is only going to really record the financial activity of that transaction, not really going to record the actual support for that.
What they actually did.
Yep. So you might have, so like for us, if you were working with us, we'd say, hey, give us that research. We'd put it in your work paper file for that year. If their duties or something changed or whatnot, if you said, hey, we're executing that strategy, we just keep compiling it within that appropriate year. That way, if you are selected for audit for that, we'd have the data already on hand.
So they'd still have to go through all the same processes like a normal business would for hiring someone on. They'd have their 1099. Right?
The W-9.
W-9. My apologies.
Not a 1099. We don't give employees 1099s.
So they fill all that out.
Yeah.
They have their social security number. Everything goes in, gets submitted to the government. The government understands, hey, okay, this person is employed by this company here.
Yep.
So treat it like a real employee. And for those small businesses who are that sole proprietor, this is a very good sampling or opportunity to learn what it's like to have an employee.
Yeah, exactly.
And then recommendations for like who to go through. Like, so you should have an accountant or payroll at that point, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. If you try to wing this, these are very nuanced rules to it. You want somebody that can walk you through this to make sure that it's set up properly, it's running properly. Either that or you got to be an expert in your business, right? You got to know what type of entity you are. Again, if you have to be either a sole proprietor or a partnership in which you and your spouse are the two partners, to exempt it from FICA, or if you're an S Corp or C Corp, right, you're paying FICA tax. If you want, maybe if you have 8 kids, right, hey, I might have a family management company, or that's why you might see a lot of family limited partnerships and entities like that might actually execute payroll for kids in that scenario. But maybe then the economics make sense of, hey, we're going to create a management structure in place to save ourselves some FICA tax on all that. But again, every tax strategy has a cost to it. So you always got to look at the cost to benefit.
So I want your top recommendation for what you would say for having your kids or how to pay your kids in your business.
Yeah. So I'd focus first on making sure that I'm creating an opportunity for them to get the experience of entrepreneurship.
Yeah. We're not suggesting to do this just to avoid paying tax. That is not an accurate strategy.
It's actually a win-win, right? It's a way you can, this is a way to do it, right? Work with a professional on this. Again, lots of rules and limitations, but you have an opportunity to expose your child to so many important topics: entrepreneurship, time value of money, and you save taxes on top of it. It's a really good situation.
And we don't want to try to tell you this is a wrinkle in tax, because realistically, I very much think this is a great idea. And it in many ways creates family businesses and allows small businesses, to be handed down to the next generation. How
many clients do we hear? My kids are not interested in the business. And that's largely because they've shied away from it, right? They see mom and dad working long hours, coming home tired. They don't see the success on the other hand, or maybe even the impact that their business is making on their employees, their communities, their customers.
Perfect. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Kaizen Time, part of the Blood, Sweat, and Business podcast. If you like what you heard, subscribe and leave a 5-star review. This podcast has been brought to you by Kaizen CPAs Plus Advisors, providing advisory and accounting services to help you grow your business. Learn more at kaizencpas.com or email us at bsb@kaizencpas.com.